I call Grant Robertson.
Thank you very much, Mr Chair. It's always a pleasure to follow on from the President of the North Shore Toastmasters. You know you're in trouble when Paul Quinn's nodding "that's right" beside you, don't you? It's terrible. Mr Chair, part one of this bill is actually about choices and priorities. And the National Party have made very, very clear to the country yesterday where their priority lies. And their priority doesn't lie in looking to the future and actually having a plan, having a strategy. 2 out of 10 for strategy this budget was given yesterday because there isn't a long-term plan present. Yesterday's budget speech by Bill English was remarkable in a number of ways. One of them was the complete absence of any plan about how to grow this economy. An obsession with tax cuts delivered to the rich and avoiding actually talking about what the plan is, what the strategy is. Because apparently we have to cut the top tax rate to keep people in New Zealand, to stop them from going to Australia. Well, the message for the National Party is it's not the tax rates that will send people to Australia. It's the wages, it's the jobs that need to be created as part of a long-term plan to grow a sustainable economy. Taxes in Australia and the headline rate of tax in Australia is only one thing. What Australia has been doing under the Kevin Rudd government is actually planning, investing in skills and training, actually trying to get people into work. This budget is devoid of a strategy or a plan for the future. It is a short-term thinking budget that will not deliver to New Zealanders the increased well-being and living that we all want, because an obsession with tax and an obsession with tax cuts for the wealthy is not the path that will deliver a sustainable economy. Because the priorities that the government's actually putting out here are to show that, yes, we have to borrow money. We have to borrow money. So what are we going to use that borrowed money for? Are we going to use that borrowed money for tax cuts for the wealthy few? Or are we going to use that borrowed money to invest in something that will be good for our long-term future, like early childhood education, for example? So why would a government cut $400 million out of early childhood education? Is that not a priority for this government? Because that's the message that the public of New Zealand are getting. 25% of the money that's been cut, the so-called low-value spending, is from early childhood education. That is the message this government is sending, is that early childhood education is low-priority spending. And that is not a message that will be good for the future of New Zealand. What the National Party is doing is a hit-and-hope budget. We're lining up to take our shot. Mr Woodhouse plays a bit of golf. He's lining up to take his shot on the first tee. He's got no idea where the hole is. He's just going to hit the ball up in the air, see if the tax cuts work. Let's just see if the tax cuts deliver growth. No real plan, no real idea of exactly where he wants to go. We're just going to hit and hope. And internationally, we know tax cuts will not deliver a sustainable economy. Tax cuts will not. There's Paul Quinn, John Key's chief policy advisor. He's out there telling us what to do. Tax cuts internationally do not deliver sustainable growth. Sustainable growth comes from investing in people and starting at the earliest years to invest in people. But apparently that's not a priority. Apparently it's okay for early childhood educations to have to run cake stalls to buy crayons, but Paul Reynolds can get over $1,000 a week in a tax cut. Early childhood education cuts will mean that parents will be paying more, or that early childhood education centres will be having to fundraise just to be able to keep going. And at the same time, the richest 1% of people in our country will get 15% of the value of the tax cuts. That is not fair. And we heard yesterday a whole lot of rhetoric about fairness. There is nothing fair in a budget that takes away hundreds of millions of dollars from early childhood education, takes away millions of dollars from health, and delivers that money to the richest people in New Zealand. That is not a recipe for a fair and equitable New Zealand. That is not a recipe for a country that has a long-term plan. This is a short-term budget designed to deliver a bit of money in the pocket that will make people feel good, but that will get eroded over time with GST. This is a budget that breaks promises. It breaks the promises around GST increases. It breaks the promises about not cutting public services. This is a budget that will not deliver a future for New Zealanders that would make people stay here. Where is the work in this budget around an economy that brings together the environment and the economy? Where's that? The environment wasn't actually mentioned in the budget speech yesterday.